Thank you for joining us. Today we are joined by FCF's Regina Rosendahl. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing good. How are you?
We're good, thank you. We usually say, well, as good as we can be, with how things are at the moment. But I think we all know what's going on in the world. We all know it's a bit shit at the moment. So let's try and talk about some happier subjects today. Obviously, like I said, with what's going on right now, how have you been finding it? Have you been able to stay in the ring training at all? Have you been able to keep active?
Here and there, yeah. A year ago, we had to basically everything went down, so we had nothing. We couldn't, obviously my university is doing now everything remotely, and then the training is. We had to stop the training for like 3 months. Then we got back. We already had some shows with like half the crowd that we could normally bring in.
Yeah.
And then everything shut down again, and now we're not training.
Oh, so how have you been finding that? I mean, I can only imagine you're absolutely itching to get back in the ring again.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, being the head coach, I am kind of, the whole responsibility of the training is like on my shoulders. So like just trying to figure out new ways to do something, like some theory, promo classes, anything that we can just manage. But I do understand that in these times, people also need to just take a break as well, because it can be very difficult for some. So.
Definitely. A lot of people I've spoken to, they said there's only been one positive right now, and that's when you're not wrestling all the time, it gives you time to focus on things that you wouldn't usually get to do. Like you said, with promo classes, for example, if promos aren't your best thing, it gives you more time to work on your promos. Do you feel like that's been the case with yourself, or like with any other wrestlers you've been working with? Do you feel like a lot of people are using that time to improve themselves, ready for when they come back?
Well, I know I am, because I'm very much a perfectionist, and I can't really just stay still, I feel. And I try to kind of kick my girls into doing stuff. We do like burpee challenges and push-up challenges and everything. Like I want them to be active, so that, of course, there's going to be a ring rust, but that they would be in somewhat kind of a shape to run the ropes again. But yeah, I think I'm mostly just using my time to get more ideas and my character and promos and the gear. I'm constantly designing new gear and stuff. So yeah, but I think I'm kind of ready for the full schedule wrestling again. But I think the break was good. A year ago I felt like it was good, but now I'm.
We're all over it now. Over it now. Yeah. At the start, I was like, "This is a nice break," but after 2 weeks, you're like, it can go away. But you were saying you had a few shows. You were working a few shows on and off. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in my research, there was a Royal Rumble match that you were a part of. Please tell, because I'm assuming as part of being a head coach, you were in a prominent booking position as well. What was it like booking a Royal Rumble and then being involved in a Royal Rumble? Because we just watched 2 of them and they seem crazy to be involved in. And what was it like getting that many talent on the same page?
Well, actually, I'm not part of the booking team, so I'm only coaching, and I'm only responsible for. I can say when a wrestler is not ready for a ring, for example, so I can make a call like that, but I'm not really making. Yeah.
That's a relief in that.
Yeah. But it's a whole lot of crazy going on, and you can't really script that. I mean, you can in parts, but like having actually 30 other people that will remember what you agreed on, that won't happen. So it's a lot of improvisation and a lot of timing. Timing is the most important thing in that. So it was okay. It was the best Rumble we had in Finland, let's say that.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be hard to put together. It's people having to remember who is eliminating who when they're going out. Like the Royal Rumbles you see in WWE, you can tell it's planned down to the finest detail. and I can't imagine how hard that would be. Like we have a lot of Rumbles, Battle Royals in the UK, usually at the end of a show, and you can tell sometimes they just haven't planned anything. They've just gone in and gone, "Oh, your time to go out now," or throw me out. You can hear them saying it, but it's a lot of fun. What's been the biggest challenge for you as a coach? I know you said you're not in a booking position, but as a coach, what's been the biggest challenge for you? Do you find it easy to train people, or is it a challenge to, pass on that knowledge?
Well, I think I've done a lot of coaching in my life. I've coached basketball and I've coached some martial arts as well, kickboxing and such.
Yeah.
So. And I've done a lot of courses, and I have studied that, so I know the psychology behind it somewhat. So I was the most qualified person to do that when the previous head coach stepped out. So it was quite kind of a logical step for me to take, even though people were very confused that a woman would be taking this position. And I know I still have some guys who've never been to my trainings. But that shows in their bookings as well. So, no, but so there's still some. I still hear the whispers there here and there, but I know I'm doing I think I'm doing the best job everyone has ever done here before, because we are always evolving. So I'm not only learning from my mistakes, but also from the mistakes that they have done before me. So I have that advantage of knowing what they did and what went wrong there and what worked. So I can't remember the question, but something about challenges.
Has it been a challenge so far for you?
Yeah.
I can only imagine it's been rewarding for you to train some people, but I can only imagine as well at the same time it would be quite a challenge, passing on that knowledge to people, making sure you're doing it right.
I've spoken to a few coaches over here in Ireland, and they say that when they see their students, it's almost as good a feeling as them having a good match when they see someone they had a hand in going out there and having their moment. Even if have you had any matches with your students or anything, any moments that stand out where you're a moment clicked and you were a proud moment?
All the time. Crying all the time backstage, just watching them. They're my babies. I trained the first ever women's class, only female class, and then I was the head coach when the newest class that they had their debut in it was October last year. But I wasn't the person with them every day, but I was there every month and just seeing things through, what is going on and all that stuff. But it's very challenging because I was only 5 years in when I started being the head coach, so it's fairly it's not very much. Especially working in Finland, I'm not sure how many matches I've had, but it's a lot less than someone in the UK, for example, might have with 5 years in. But yeah, it is very rewarding to see my girls and guys as well, but especially the girls. I have made such a special connection with them. So it's very emotional. And the newest girl, she's had 3 matches and they have all been against me, and it's not a coincidence, but I think I now have to let her go to venture out.
You must be proud though. But I think another thing everybody should be proud of, especially in Finland, Denmark, Sweden, the Scandi Grap scene right now is incredible, or as Max of Man told me to call it, the Nordic wrestling scene.
Yes.
The Nordic
Finland
Graps.
is not a part of.
Yeah. So Nordic Graps.
Yeah.
We've spoken to a lot of people from the scene in the last couple of months, and what's really fascinated me is how this incredible wrestling scene has gone under the radar for so long. It's such a good wrestling scene, so many talented wrestlers, but in the UK, we're kind of like in this little bubble of the UK wrestling scene, and you don't really see what's outside of it. And the same goes for America. Their wrestling scene, they don't really know about us, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been amazing seeing this this scene you've got over there, and you should all be very proud of it. But what's your thoughts on like how it's becoming more popular and more people are starting to see it? It must be again rewarding seeing that hard work pay off.
Absolutely, yeah, and obviously, I've been to Sweden and Denmark, but I haven't been to Norway, for example. And obviously, I haven't visited all the promotions in Sweden either. I think they have like 5 promotions.
Yeah.
So I can't really speak for them, but I think in Finland, we had a very big cultural change, or we have a change in management and changing booking team. Everything changed. It must have been like almost 4 years ago now. 3, 4. Oh. Anyway, so we had to kind of build it not from the ground up, but there was a lot of stigma that was kind of on our brand at that time. It was it was viewed as very sexist and homophobic and not very progressive at all. So a lot of people kind of went, oh, we don't want that wrestling crap kind of thing here. Like, no, we don't want to watch that. So now we just have to kind of fix our brand. And we've done that. We've now sold more tickets. We make more money. We have more people applying to become wrestlers and other jobs as well. So we're doing good, but I think there's still like a lot of that
still work
old
to do.
stuff that we have to kind of get out.
That's always the case though with new wrestling scenes. And I say new, I mean, I know it's been around for a few years now, but it's still, I guess, outside of their own countries, it's still relatively unknown. So it's still kind of like an emerging wrestling scene. You've probably still got work to do, but I think what you have done so far is incredible. And I feel weird not knowing that it existed. Like, I didn't know there was a wrestling scene over there, but let alone did I know there's companies in every country. There's some really good wrestlers.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a good scene. What do you think is going to happen in the next couple of years? Do you feel like it's just going to keep going from strength to strength and become more like for example, the British wrestling scene has boomed recently. It's gone more popular than ever. Can you see it going that same way?
I think it will, and I hope so. I don't know. I think it would be very interesting to, work something together with the Nordic countries, because I think most of us have a very similar view of wrestling as well, so our styles are not that different, I don't think. So, but in Finland or in FCF wrestling, we're now trying to make it more inclusive, and we have a feministic view on it, so we really want to bring diversity in it.
Yeah.
And I think that will be the future of wrestling everywhere. But in Finland, that's absolutely our #1 goal. So, it will get bigger. Yeah,
you're right, though. There needs to be more of a feminist touch in wrestling, especially from a promoter's point of view.
Yes.
We spoke to Brittany Nicole from Elevate Pro in America.
Mm-hmm.
She's a female promoter one of the only female promoters in America. Yeah. And I find that crazy. There's not many. But the things she's doing to make sure it's safeguarded for women to work there is incredible. And I feel like every promotion really should be trying to bring on that more of a female perspective to safeguard it for the future. I feel like it is starting to happen, but I think it needs to be a thing going forwards. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think women need to be in charge, and also in the booking teams. I think it's very important to have a women's perspective on the storylines and everything, and not just men and women, but people of different ethnic backgrounds and sexual orientations and everything, because I think everyone's story deserves to be heard, and I think we can include all of that in wrestling, but we just need that representation to make it happen.
Yeah, and you talk about the change of the culture that you put in the Finnish wrestling scene, and a good example of that is one of the matches I watched today was yourself against Jessica Love, who's one of the only transgender wrestlers in Europe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but how cool is it to see those matches on YouTube and seeing the way that you change, because you as you said, you've changed the culture in terms of equality and fairness and the training and how it's done. What's it like to see it kind of come to fruition with someone like Jessica being able to wrestle without really feeling like she's not welcome like she would have been in the previous system?
Yeah, I think Jessica is a prime example of how you can treat a wrestler badly. Like she had to take so much shit for going through the transition and being in wrestling at the same time. And when I started wrestling, I was quickly the only woman in the women's division because Jessica was not qualified as a woman. Oh God, that's so transphobic, and I hate even saying that. But they didn't see her as a woman, so she was only wrestling the guys. So we had to make that cultural change in the management and everything, and then we finally got our match in 2017. So not too long ago, but
it's so weird to think, isn't it? Like very recently, that's only changed.
Yeah, exactly. So we actually got a feud of that as well, and we wanted to make it even harder for us, and we were both baby faces when we started that feud, and then we decided that we're not gonna make Jessica the monster heel, we're gonna make myself the heel.
I saw that, yeah. I saw you trapped her in the rope. You trapped her in the ropes and you hit her with a kick in the head. The last kick was square in the face, and I was like, you said you had a kickboxing background, and that makes sense now. That makes sense.
Yeah, and with Jessica, because she's always like, just kick me hard, just go ahead. And she's always like, after the match, you could have kicked me harder. It's fine. But I'm like, I'm trying to work. Please, I'm sorry. But yeah, actually that match was our first one of the feud, and it's not very good now that I look back on it. But it has such an emotional value to me because it's what it represents. So that's why I like to watch it every now and then.
Yeah, and in terms of like putting Finnish wrestling on the map, you've been like a big spearhead in that with like wrestling, and the way that wrestling scenes get put on the map is when wrestlers from outside that scene come in and wrestle there, and then they go back and tell everybody, and then it kind of spreads. And wrestling people like Jazzy Gabbert and Toni Storm, what was that like? That must have been really cool to be given that responsibility to wrestle the two big imports, if that's the way you want it.
Sure, yeah, but I kind of see it as a bittersweet thing because I was not allowed to wrestle Jessica or the guys, so that's why they had to bring me women from all over the world. So I kind of felt like, okay, I'm treated differently than them, but then again, I'm getting to wrestle these kind of women with such, experience and star power as well. I mean, look at Toni. So,
yeah.
But yeah, all in all, it was more positive, but there's always a little bit like, of why that happened.
Yeah, of course.
What are your thoughts on, we've discussed it a few times before with people who've come on. I don't really like calling it, it's just what people call it nowadays, intergender wrestling. Yeah. We've had this discussion before where I feel like it's going towards just being wrestling and not having to have a label as intergender wrestling. But like in America, for example, a lot of the independents there are having intergender matches, and it's just normal. It's just a normal match, and you have females who are champions of promotions where they don't even have women's championships anymore. It's just everyone fighting for the same championship. Is that something you'd like to see more of going forwards, where it is just one division and male versus female or whatever? Like it's people from all sexualities, genders, backgrounds competing for the same thing instead of having to have a separate women's division.
I think that is where the future is headed.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we should be headed. I do understand why they have different divisions as well. And I don't really see that as a bad thing as long as they are treated equally, but obviously in most cases they are not.
Yeah.
But I think the problem comes in when we have a non-binary wrestler coming in. Okay, which division are they going in? Now you have to make assumptions of their gender, which is not your business to do, really. So
not fair, yeah.
Yeah. So and I don't think the answer for that is women, non-binary, and men, because we are all storytellers. We're making theater, even though it's physical theater. So I don't see any reason why we would have gender in the way of making stories. I really don't understand that. So yeah, I think everyone should be just maybe not even the same division. Maybe you can have like a mid card division and then a main event kind of upper mid card division and stuff. So you can still have divisions, just not based on gender. And that's what we are doing in Finland as well. We don't have a women's championship. We've never had. And we don't call it intergender wrestling. But we had to do some work before that was possible. And I understand why some people still need to promote it as intergender wrestling and make it cool before people actually just take it as the norm.
I get you. Yeah. There is still I guess, in some places in the world, there is a stigma attached to it still, unfortunately. But I feel like there's so many talented female wrestlers nowadays who are putting on matches with guys and sometimes outperforming, sometimes matching them equally, but putting on show-stealing performances. And I feel like that stigma is starting to disappear a bit now, where female wrestlers can be the main person in a promotion, and it's not frowned upon, which I think is really important because, like you said, the biggest problem is they're not treated equally in some places, when it's very easily like the women all around the world right now. WWE, for example, one of the best things about them right now is the women's division. Look at the Royal Rumble matches that last week. That women's Royal Rumble was better than the men's objectively.
Guys, we need to remember, they main evented WrestleMania. People have very short memories. They main evented.
Absolutely, yeah.
They main evented WrestleMania.
And I was there, and I was crying the whole time.
How was that then? That's a great topic that I have no idea. What was it like being at Mania and they walk out? Because that must have been, because there must be times, because there's times in everything. There's times when you do a podcast, or there's times when you're doing wrestling where you're like, is this worth it? Where is this leading to? When you see people, 3 women walking out to main event at WrestleMania in front of like 90,000 people, that must just give you hope, and so much like there's still hope there, and there's inspiration to go and do what you're doing.
Oh yeah, it did. It was so emotional because obviously when I started in 2014, that was not even a dream. You know, that was so unheard of, and I couldn't even imagine that ever happening. So it was such a special Mania to be a part of. I had to be there. And it was a great match, even though like I understand the criticism about Ronda Rousey. And obviously she's not my favorite wrestler, but that was not the point of why she was there. So I think all of them deserved a spot to be there, and I'm not sure if they could have. I think they could have done it, but I don't think they would have gotten that chance without Ronda. So I think she was
the main
very important part. Yeah. But it was a great Mania in many ways, because Batista was one of my favorites growing up, and it was his last match. Beth Phoenix, another one. She had a tag team match, and then Kofi Mania. I don't know. Whew. That was a great Mania to be a part of, really.
Sure. I'd love to go. I've never been to a Mania, and that's on the book. It's on the bucket list. Hopefully, once it all opens up. But I think they're gonna main event Mania again. I think there's potential. There's a lot of potential there. Like, we're talking about intergender wrestling. This is like 4 years ago. We saw Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano go out there as boyfriend and girlfriend and kill each other on the indies. Like, they had matches where they would bleed all over the place, and people have such short memories that this is the intergender wrestling isn't just this new thing that people are introducing. It's something that's been built from the ground up, and it needs a little bit more respect.
It's true, but I think that always happens. It's not real before WWE does it, kind of.
Yeah, that's unfortunately a very good point. Yeah.
I think if WWE finally would accept they do the mix. They don't let women and men interchange unless it's the mixed match challenge, or whether it's Reginald was a recent example. Reginald had a very good match with Sasha Banks on SmackDown. Like, it was a really, really good match. I really enjoyed that match, and that was like the first sign of. But I think if WWE would like fully accept intergender wrestling as a thing, I think that would be like a big turning point because it works from the top down. It's a pecking order thing, and if the person at the top isn't doing something, then the people below them just won't believe in it. And I think that's a big thing.
Exactly.
I think WWE's biggest problem is they don't think it's advertiser friendly. I think that's their problem. Like, they won't do it because I think they feel like they'd get backlash from their advertisers for doing intergender wrestling. So I just don't think it's anything they'll do anytime soon. But hopefully, if they make enough noise on the independents and other companies start doing it, they'll feel the pressure and hopefully they'll change their mindset. So this might be one of those rare cases where it works from the bottom up too. Hopefully that's going to change in the next few years, but I'm still jealous you went to that WrestleMania. I went to a couple of Manias before that, and I honestly wish I'd have gone to the one you went to. That was more of a historical Mania, I think.
It so was, but I think that intergender wrestling is going to take a couple of more years for WWE because I mean, Americans, come on, they're slow. They need some time to,
to process. Yeah.
No offense to any Americans, but that's just kind of, I don't know if everyone in Europe views them that way, but that's kind of how the Nordics see Americans, kind of like.
I think it's just divisive is the thing.
That's true though. There's like, so many fucking people.
If you look at their politics, and we won't get into politics. This is just a passing remark about their politics. But it's the elections were so divisive and it caused so many arguments. It's hard to get everyone on the same page, mainly because the size of the country. I mean, Callum lives in England. It's not on the same scale, but it's a very divisive political country as well. And when you have so many people that need to get on the same page, and when you put that on a wrestling scale, you're like, that's a lot of people who need to get on the same page for it to work. And
I think you're right there. I feel like people outside of England view England a lot like America as well. Like it.
No, not in the same way.
Really? I feel like we get the same rep as Americans.
Well, I'm from Ireland, so I'm meant to hate the English, but like.
Well, I'm from a Scottish family, so we're friends, are we?
No. But like one thing I wanted to talk about, because it kind of falls into everything in life, and it falls into everything that you mentioned. It falls under the umbrella of mental health, and a lot of all this stuff affects people's mental health in different ways, and especially with the coronavirus and the lockdown. How important have you put, like, where have you put mental health on your like checklist every day, and how important is it for you to keep it maintained? Because I've heard you speaking about it before on other podcasts. Me and Callum are on this. Me and Callum are quite the same when it comes to this. It's vital for both of us, and it's vital for everyone. But a lot of people they kind of neglect it, and they kind of think it's just something that's there, but you really do need to work on it, like you do your physical health.
Yeah, and I neglected it as well for many, many years, and now I'm in a place where I have to put it number one, or number two, depending on the day. But I'm so fortunate to be able to do therapy every week. So I do like a Zoom meeting with my therapist. I have a lot of like different kind of I can't find the English word for that, but like, well, assignments basically for to how to exercise my brain to think a certain way and not think another way. So yeah, I think the quarantine has been really actually a good thing for my mental health, because I've had a lot of time to reflect and prioritize. So
it's all about a routine as well, really. It's really important, because once you get into, if you find a hobby or find something or find a purpose, it really does show. I don't know what I'd love to see, like the kind of the ups and downs. I know there's a lot of apps that do like mental ups and downs, but when you're in a routine and you're in whatever it be, college, podcasting, working out, doing wrestling, it's so different than just sitting on, because the first few months of the coronavirus, everyone was just sitting on the sofa watching Tiger King and tweeting about it, and then you saw once people were like, oh, life still needs to go on, and it's really important that you how you choose to spend your day, and that really affects your mental health, I found. Well.
Yeah, that's true as well. But obviously, some days you just need to watch Tiger King.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Some days you just need to watch Tiger King, bit of Netflix.
Yeah, it's it's all a balance. Life is all about balance. But yeah, I just wanted to ask about that because it's a thing that people just don't really look at. It's overlooked a lot more than it should be. It's the same with the intergender. It's just overlooked like intergender wrestling. It's just put down to the bottom. Like if you see because you see these wrestlers on TV and you're like, oh, they don't have any problems. I guarantee all those wrestlers on TV have their own behind the scenes.
Everybody does. Everybody has a struggle. Like no matter how good it looks like somebody is doing, they probably have something behind the scenes that's mentally which or have done at some point in their lives. You always see everybody's best. You never see the worst parts, and I think that's important to remember, especially with people in the spotlight. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is important, and I feel like a lot of companies or a lot of people, they always say they're going to do something about mental health, but they're just saying it because it's the right thing to say. They never actually do anything about it, and that's an unfortunate truth. But again, I feel like it is becoming more aware. More people are aware of mental health and how it affects people. So hopefully, again, like with the intergender wrestling stuff and making sure women's wrestling is safeguarded, that's something that's going to come to fruition soon. But yeah, Regina, it's before we wrap up, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you because I love getting to hear more about the scenes where we don't really know too much about it. It's still new to us and exciting. So it'd be awesome to get you on again down the line, maybe when you've got some matches to promote, or we can get you on to discuss more about Nordic Raps. I'll get it right.
I think there should be an invasion angle when it's finished. There should be a big
angle.
Big. I before we wrap up, I do want to ask, like, I don't know what the what's on YouTube or what's on, but what would you recommend if you were trying to like tell us where we should look or what kind of match we should look at to kind of, if you're looking to get into a new scene like the Finnish wrestling scene, where would we go to look?
Well, we're still selling our latest show from last month. It's in wrestling.fi. You can still buy it. It's €10. And then also our YouTube channel, we have some older matches. Older as in last year and the year before, and then all the way back to I think 50 years ago or something. So yeah, YouTube FCF Wrestling, you can see there's plenty of my matches, and I think I suggest you take a look at them, and Jessica Love is very interesting as well to watch. Yeah. So
go and watch the kick in the head heard around the world, because that was a kick.
We'll put it in the description of the episode.
We'll put everything in.
Thanks.
But where can we find you on social media as well?
Well, I'm Regina on basically everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and then I'm mostly active on Instagram. So
awesome. Well, like I said, thank you so much for joining us, Regina. Absolute pleasure speaking with you. And we'll speak to you again down the line. Regina Rosendahl, we've been Ringsiders. Goodbye.